the idea here is this is the myth of secularism. I'm saying that because I don't think secularism exists. I don't think it's operable. So, we do have this state where we have agreed for some time to essentially um, not constantly proselytize each other and to not be pushy about religion and sort of agreements along that side, and that you could call secularism, sort of an open space in general, milieu of cities and whatnot, where we aren't conflicting over religion. Um, and I think that that's good to some degree, but the idea of secularism as a governing system is nonsense because, as we looked at in part one, it's an incoherent system. And then, as we were just talking about, as it functions, it elevates the lowest level of human accomplishment to the highest value. So it it's not, you know, to ask the question, would this future thing be secularism? Well, people might call it secularism, but secularism doesn't really have a good meaning in itself. It's either, if someone's fully committed to it, then that means they're just a nihilist. It means they don't believe that that religion is anything or shouldn't, and it shouldn't exist. If they are just sort of uh, whatever, culturally involved in it, where they're like, I mean, we just shouldn't be annoying about our religions. That's not really a belief set. That's just what would you call it? Like like a set of manners, a societal uh, agreement. And you can get to that agreement from a multiple number of core belief systems. You can get to it from nihilism of like, yeah, shut those religious people up. You can get to it from religion where you're like, hey, I don't think that we should have a um, one religion state because that would give the religious authorities too much power. So we can't treat every interaction as an extension of our own church or whatever. So I just don't think that there is such thing as secularism. There is a belief uh, in human freedom. There's a belief in uh, economic goals. There are cultural manners that we have. And those sort of together add up to what we now call secularism. But the issue is and this is how we introduce it. We've just sort of agreed to not talk about metaphysics, but it turns out that we need to talk about metaphysics because now there's issues on the metaphysical level that we need to sort out. And then I was thinking about, I think it's Voltaire who says something like, I don't want to believe in God, but I hope that my king does. I forget who he says, someone in authority. It's like king or judge or whatever. But basically, his point is, I can't commit myself to belief, but I do hope that people in authority don't feel like they're the top authority. So this was hundreds of years ago, but I think that's sort of the inevitable mindset of a rational secularist is like, you know, uh, again, the rational secularists themselves won't necessarily say it, but they believe in eternal truth. They believe in the superordinate value of truth. The problem is their own value set and the things that they propagate does not actually defend and support that claim. So while they're promoting this materialist science, truth liking culture, they're actually forwarding a bunch of philosophical precepts that undermine the real commitment to the truth. And so when you end up with people who are not just sort of naturally inclined to be truth seekers and see the scientific endeavor in itself as some sort of uh, uniquely fulfilling drive and purpose, then they're going to be put two and two together and say, yes, Everyone's been lying, and all human stories are just made up nonsense, and our rights only exist in stories that we tell each other. So human beings don't actually have natural rights. And there's a bunch of people who are just annoying nihilists who are getting in the way of the global government. So now let's make a plan based on those precepts. And that goes very badly.